1, 2, 3. Way down under Georgia. Wish I was back in Tennessee. Way down under Stargate. All the friends that turned back on me. Don't worry if you will. Never let it cross your mind. In your heart, you'll have another. Leave was our line on mine. Last night.
That deal. Listen, I was becoming sure right. He'd say, "Ma," and Nora would say, "Yeah." He'd say, "Put on the coffee." In the middle of the day, and when he'd come in, Uncle Bob would tell me this story. And Uncle Alfred would come in, and the coffee would be over the fireplace. He'd be going, he's perfect. He said he'd pick up the coffee, the whole thing, with the lip of the spout. He'd go and sip it while he was and his wife right over there. And then these are his children. And he would say, "I wish I was an apple hanging on a tree. Every time I send you back, take a come here, son, get your Susan syrup." Because he had all those children. "Come here, son, get your Susan syrup." I wish I was. There was a field hand working for the family for I guess for my great granddaddy William Pinckney, and they lived right there. And this field hand, nobody knew anything about it. His name was Stanley. He died, and they buried him right here behind the house, just because they wanted to give him a decent burial. And didn't think about it much more, I guess. Well, then a baby was born dead, or a baby died, as many did, and they buried the baby beside him. Then another baby died, and their cousin died. And these are all cousins, so it starts to being in the family. And pretty soon a graveyard was started, and finally somebody said, "Well, let's put up markers." And so the markers are all in here, but I was worried about all the people who weren't marked.
Yeah.
So I'm standing here 1988 or so with my Oma. And I said, it sure would be good if we knew who all these people were, and these unmarked graves. And she said, get a pencil and a piece of paper and I'll tell you. And she named them all.
Are you serious?
She knew all of them, and they're on that bulletin board right over there. The places and the names of who's in here.
Wow.
And since '88, there maybe been a couple. I think it was a '90 was buried back here. There was a 1997 buried over there. But they're all Haleys and Warrens as a consequence of a couple of marriages of your Aunt Chloe's uncle and aunt. She had only one aunt on the father's side of the family, and that was Etta, and she married Weil. Weil had a whole bunch of children, and one of them was named Butcher, because he was in the meat business for a while, and he had a whole bunch of kids, some of whom are here. Eddie is one of his, and Margaret, who recently died, was one of his. And then an uncle on the Warren side married Lucy Haley. That's the other one. And so we're talking about in the middle 1800s. But this goes back to William Pinckney Warren, 1826,
Wow.
who was Aunt Chloe's grandfather, 1826. William Pinckney married Elizabeth Darby, Barbara Fairby, Caroline Jane Keith Warren. He called her Puss. He called her Puss. It is a mouthful. And they had Izzy and Toad and Chad and a bunch of others. And Izzy had your grandmother, Chloe, and my mother Truman. So that's kind of a really rough overview. So the Haleys and Warrens have been cleaning this graveyard every year in the spring since before I was born in 1944. So I've been to most of them. And there are things which are disappearing, like there used to be an angel, a little angel in one of the graves that we pay a lot of attention to. And then there is a marker, which I can show you in a minute, that had born dead, D-E-D, carved into it. And that was always very interesting. Now it's so smooth you can barely see it, but that's still here.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes if you have rains, like these stones are kind of getting buried, you come in here and you'll find a grave with stones that are buried, and you just dig down a little bit and you'll unbury some stones. So it's great to have, what's great is to have the young kids here so you can, young people like you can touch. And you've been to some of the graveyards.
When I was a kid,
yeah.
I used to love it. It was really cool to always sit around and listen to all the stories, and just like this. I mean, I can't believe it goes back that far. 1827, you said?
1826, when
26.
Tommy Jefferson was alive.
I think that's
and those
incredible.
guys, when Sally Hemings. This is probably my mama's. I got a picture of her with 3 brooms. Her new broom, her kind of old broom, and a real old broom. And the hey buddy. And the new broom has got long bristles. The middle-aged broom has got kind of short bristles, and the old broom, the bristles all the way up. The broom clip was no good anymore. I broke the wrong end of this. It's been out in the rain, I guess.
Well, that's a cheap shot.
That's symbolic.
Huh?
That's symbolic.
It is symbolic. It's an old rake. There are a few old people around here.
Maybe you might see them. Maybe. But not if that would be enough.
See if Daddy will take it.
Start cutting.
I've been coming here like my whole life, cleaning. I've been here my whole life. My parents have taken me here a lot, and I just really enjoy spending time with my family, cleaning, and then when we go down to eat, it's really fun. And then after we eat, we go down to the creek and play. It's really fun down there.
What do you do at the creek?
We like to look for like snakes, but usually we don't really want to find them. We don't find them, but usually we look for fish, just fish.
Crawfish.
Play in there, crawfish. Thank you. I was looking for that. And we just talk. We like to climb the rocks, the trees.
This tombstone, which I'll put back, it comes up. I remember from some of my earliest memories were looking at this when the carving was very clear in here, and the initials are LCH. I think it's a Haley. Born, B-O-R-N. Dead, D-E-D. This is a kind of soft stone that was carved into by hand, and a lot of these babies in this graveyard, I think it probably shows up on the chart. When my aunt stood here and named them all, were born dead or were children, as was common around the turn of the century. So I think the graveyard started around the turn of the century, around 1900, turn of the century before the last turn. But this is a memory, this going away, so it's interesting. We need to get a, what do you call it when you do the
Etchings or
etching. Not an etching, but you put the
rubbings.
rubbing. Put a paper over it.
Yeah. Rubbing. Yeah.
We're gonna try that.
Speeding ticket.
We're gonna try that. We're gonna do the speeding ticket first.
Yeah, we'll use your
Let's
speeding
do the
ticket.
etching on the back of the speeding ticket.
You can use that.
Okay, we'll do that.
Here's your pencil.
Thank you. Do I have to take this to court? This speeding
It's
ticket?
okay.
Wait, are you gonna like screw?
We're gonna watch this. He's gonna He's actually not doing it right.
Yeah, you want to get a picture of the poison ivy?
I'm going to have to sign a release, or y'all going to have to sign a release. I don't know which.
We can continue to talk now. We'll put this
All
on
right,
film.
now, continue the interview, if you will.
So we've been coming down here since probably, I mean, I was born in 44 and you were born in 44, right?
43.
43. I always thought you were older than I was.
You're exactly right.
I could tell by the time
Smarter
we
too.
get around.
Still above ground, though.
So we used to sit, when we were as little as these kids, listening to the people who knew the people in here. I mean, I knew a few of them, but they knew all of them.
Yeah.
And they would talk stories more than we ended up with every year. And a lot of the stories would be repeated, which was why they have certain meaning and why people outside the family, they're probably boring.
Mm-hmm. The one memory I hold too is that lots of times Papa would barbecue a pig and bring for the entree, I think we've been trained to say. But he'd stayed up all night cooking it, and had built a pit over at our service station. Mm-hmm. Went to the house to clean, change clothes and clean, and came back in just an hour or so getting ready to load the pig up and chop it up and bring it to the reunion. And a pack of wild dogs had got the pig and pulled it off the grill. And what they didn't eat, we served anyway, so it was the most memorable.
I'm sure it was. Now, your daddy was a butcher.
Butch
And Butcher and my Uncle Bob were good buddies.
Exactly, and I've always wondered why in the world Walter C. would get a name Butch. But story is that he would go to the stockyard and butcher a cow or a beef and go around the neighborhood selling it. So he was the first, probably the door-to-door peddler in Umstead, what is now Umstead Park. Mm-hmm. And that's how his name came to be, Butch.
Well, you know, I always heard it Butcher, but you heard it Butch, and you should know it was your daddy.
You should hear some of the things that I call you, even though I know your name is Clyde.
I already know. I already heard him. But Walter Clarence is the name that Uncle Bob took when he changed his name.
Are you kidding?
After being on the
parole
chain
was
gang.
that was his
He was
parole
on the chain gang, he escaped,
No
and he took Walter Clarence Martin.
Oh wow, no wonder the Haley's got a bad name.
Well, that had something to do with it, maybe. So the Haleys and the Warrens, as you can tell, are buried here, and there's always a little friction going. For example, the Haleys always bring these weed eaters that make a lot of noise and can't talk or anything. That's a Haley. That's Ross. You can talk to Ross about that.
And I have to bring the note too. Probably about 10 or 12 years ago, right during Clyde's phenomenal rise to stardom as an author. Somebody had made note of the Haley Warren reunion, and a reporter wanted to do a job. And he was so worn out with paparazzi, he said, "Y'all are going to have to leave." So this is a contradiction
This is a different group. You remember that. I kind of forgotten that.
Oh, well.
There's a long story behind that.
That's one of the names that I called you, and we won't even divulge what that was. For the sake that I still like to remain friends with my cuz.
Yeah, we're catching up now.
But all things fade away with time, and we have been pretty much inseparable buddies, spirit-wise, the whole time. So
at the reunion, we'll see the kids doing what we did 65 years ago, which is run down to the creek behind the place where we have the reunion and
fall in the water, muddied, wet, and fish and snakes. That's the real challenge.
I remember Uncle Bob and your daddy coming down, and they kind of would go to the car somewhere and take a sip.
And also, I
whiskey.
think there occasionally was a deck of cards involved.
It could have been a deck
in
of
the
cards.
past, yeah.
And I remember the women folk would kind of look the other way. And then I remember later finding out about the fact that in that house that my granddaddy had right here, there was a saloon. And there was card games and dances, and he got excommunicated from the church.
Oh my gosh.
Which is something we don't want to tell our teachers about.
Exactly.
So why are we ripping up the tree, David? Because we gotta shake the Captain Hook off. Shake the Captain Hook off the tree? Yeah, because he's bad, and he might kill our tunnel tree off. Our tunnel tree off. We gotta destroy him.
You got to destroy him.
Yeah.
Well, Papa wanted to know, and these folks too.
And so we can die.
Yeah, Papa wanted to know why you're getting so tall.
And I didn't know that.
I thought you said so you could reach things. And why are you getting so heavy?
Because I'm supposed to.
But you don't blow away, right? Are you embarrassed about being on camera?
No.
Not at all. Are you a hot dog?
No.
You are a hot dog too. Absolutely. Who's moving?
And then remember, now I got another question to drop.
Okay, go ahead.
Remember when she got blocked in the cave? Yeah. Remember?
And he's walking himself and he can get out of here.
Wiley here, a cousin on the Haley side, has his picture in Tom Weber's book, Stories in Stone, and also in the Library of Congress in a cotton field when he was either 3 or 6 years old. And Wiley's the one who let me know about some of Uncle Bob's history, which we'll talk about later. Thank you. Go get him, Wiley.
My mom, that is my youngest sister, Betty Ann, who passed this July. And that's her husband, who is 86 years old, sharp as a tack, was a registered nurse, delivered a bunch of babies. Anybody was sick, they come to get mom. Great to see the younger people, the people that we haven't seen every year. And we just want to pause a minute to celebrate family. As a lot of you probably have wondered, what is happening to America? Anybody had that question? What is happening to America? Well, it's the disintegration of family. So for quite a few years, Clyde and I have been a part of this family gathering, and most of the time right here in this same place. And the rent's gone up, by the way, which you'll please remember when we passed the hat. I think first come, first served was when Clyde and I first started coming here, and we defended it with a stick. We still have to do that on occasion, but we have to pay a $100 fee for the time that we use it. But we're thankful, and I do dwell on the fact that family is so important, both, within our own being, locally and nationally and internationally. So the Lord gave us that for a model, and we do thank you for that. So let's thank you for the food also. Lord and Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this beautiful day, brief respite from the rain and your summertime. Lord, we do cherish our family, and we are amazed at how quickly we separate from each other, but more importantly, how we separate from you. So Lord, bring us back together. Let us acknowledge your coming soon and how much we need you. Thank you for this food. Thank you for everyone that is here. And bless our time together. For it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. And dig in.
Right. Amen. Dig in. Amen. Dig in.
He's going to be the family historian in about 20 years. Or maybe even 20 days. He has a lot to say. And Ridley's going to show him how to look for crawfish after lunch.
Carolyn Howard's sister. So your class
Their daddy was Jesse. When I have my 11 and I sent the friend up to Hawaii.
This was the mama.
Because I don't like this. Wow.
So we're at the creek, and the main thing I remember is Eddie and I and the other kids. Eddie's the main one I remember when we were as small as these kids would come running down after we ate and look for crawdads under the rocks in this very creek. And this is crabtree, I think, or sycamore. I get them confused. I've got to get them straightened out. One's crabtree and one's sycamore. So we'd come down, and I think my name's somewhere on here, or initial. And this creek also is a creek that the dam, the old mill, company mill is on. We'll probably be there sooner or later. There's a lot of stories about the old company mill. But this is where we come, and this is where they still come, so it's wonderful to see that we have, as long as we have at least 2 cousins down here, we can expect kids to keep coming. Ah, it's a little cloudy. Water's a little cloudy right there. Gotta turn over a rock and see what's under the rock. Oh, there are lots of stories about the old mill. The old mill, I think, was built in 1810. And of course people took their corn there to be ground in the cornmeal, and it became a social gathering site, especially for Sunday afternoons. Up in the 20s and 30s, people would drive there, and people would learn to swim there. My uncle tells a story, I hope I've got it on tape, where there's a place that's over your head where the wheel turns straight down, and that's where he was thrown in just to learn to swim or sink. And he remembers that story, and I think I've got it on tape. It's a beautiful sight. We'll go there, I hope, and get a film. It was, of course, when the government bought this land, they got rid of all the buildings, and they blew up the dam that was there with the old mill site. One of the fellows who ran that mill for a while, named Jim Grissom, I believe, when he was very old, he came walking out of the woods one day when I was talking to somebody in the graveyard about Uncle Alfred and Aunt Nora. And I never saw Aunt Nora. I never knew her. She died before I was born. And I was explaining something about her, and he comes walking out. I'd never seen him before, and says, "You know, you talking about Nora Warren?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I used to come to her back doorstep after school every day and get biscuit and butter." And then he talked about Nora a little bit. That was kind of interesting.
Where should wedding supper be? Where should the wedding supper be? Where should the wedding supper be? Way down yonder in the hollow tree. Little bit of biscuit up on the shelf. Right over there. Little bit of biscuit up on the shelf. Little bit of biscuit up on the shelf. If you want any more, you can sing it yourself.